Hello, I'm Stacy Smith and I work as Program Education Specialist at Keep Athens, Clarke County Beautiful in Athens, Georgia. We have 14 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, 2 high schools, and a number of private and specialized schools that we serve. Today, I'm going to cover how to broaden your students' understanding of the outdoors by taking them into the community. Nature can seem distant from our everyday lives, and sometimes students can get the idea that it's made up of faraway forests and species that live in other countries, or maybe species that kind of just sound like they're made up to these students. Cleaning up litter in your neighborhood or schoolyard can get these students out into their own environments and gives them a great purpose. It helps them to see the direct impact of their actions on ecosystems that are right around them. In this session, I'm going to cover the basics of a safe litter cleanup activity, and I'm going to share a lot of resources that I use in Athens-Clarke County and lessons that I like. So to start out, Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful is an affiliate of Keep Georgia Beautiful and also Keep America Beautiful. And our mission is to empower citizens with the resources to be stewards of litter prevention and community beautification. And that includes our youngest citizens as well. Even before you're old enough to vote or pay taxes, your voice and your contribution to your community should matter. In Athens-Clarke County, we work in partnership with our Extension Office and also our Stormwater, Water Conservation Planning, and Recycling departments. Together, we have a committee called the Green School Programs, and we all work together to provide environmental education in our local schools. Because of this partnership, Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful is primarily able to focus on litter prevention and beautification. So to start out, really, why should your students even be touching trash? And the reason is because the occurrence of litter in a student's environment is really a great, easily observable phenomena. So students can see it in their own environment, and it makes the issue of plastic pollution directly relevant to them because they're seeing it in their own city, in their own school, in their own classrooms, in their own community. And there are just so many questions that can be generated and asked by students. There's a lot of things to look at, the issues of pollution and social issues and things like that. Students can use this information that they learned from a cleanup and observing what's going on in their community to engineer solutions that they can implement themselves, and they'll be able to directly see an impact because they're working in their own school and their own community. So where should you take your students? There's lots of different answers to that, and you're going to want to adjust and tailor it to what your classroom or your community or your schoolyard is like. You're going to want to decide based on how well your students listen or how dangerous the roads or neighborhoods around your school might be. So starting out with the schoolyard, that is great for really any age group just because it's so contained. And also that is the student's space. They can feel a real ownership of it, and they'll be analyzing trash that's produced by their own peers. And they can also have a larger degree of control over what happens in their own schoolyard. A neighborhood is great if you have quieter streets with sidewalks and you have a group that is really great at listening to directions, then that would be a wonderful place to take them. The benefit of taking them out into the community or a neighborhood around your school is that it expands out into the community from the schoolyard. Students can analyze what's going on with government processes, what departments and workers deal with litter in the city, what are the rules and policies about it. Students are usually first aware of being citizens of their school, but as they get older, it's important for them to understand that the community belongs to them and that they can be active in decision making at the city, county, or even the state level. Special event cleanups could be organized by students themselves, or it could just Rivers Alive is a great example of this. So these cleanups generally involve persons outside of the classroom. You can have parents or neighbors that are taking part in the cleanup as well. A special event cleanup can have the benefit of having the burden of planning and supplies and things like that shouldered by the organization that's putting it on. Or If you want to have a student-led special event cleanup, then it can give the students ownership of the event and they can develop leadership skills through the whole planning process and finding the materials that they need and planning and advertising. So some safety considerations. I have here an example of some of the things that you might need for a litter cleanup, and you can adjust based on what's available to you. So starting off with protective gear, I've got a mask here just because of the COVID pandemic going on right now. If you're going to get students together or they're going to be gathering around where they might be interacting more than where they're, isolated at their own desks or stations, you're going to want them to have masks on just to prevent the spread of disease. I have a safety vest. You're going to want them to be visible, both for yourself so you can see them, and also for issues like traffic and things like that. You want students to be wearing something brightly colored, and it doesn't have to be a vest. It could be, you could just ask them to wear reds or yellows or something brightly colored for the cleanup. I have some gloves here, either reusable gloves like gardening gloves or work gloves, or also latex gloves. The only consideration with gloves is you don't want students to feel like gloves are some sort of impenetrable armor. You don't want to be encouraging them to be touching trash with their hands because you still could run into something that might be sharp that gloves aren't going to protect you from. What you really would want to use is a grabber if you have access to those. You could check in with one of your local Keep Georgia Beautiful affiliates, or maybe you can borrow them from a city or a community department. But if you don't have access to grabbers, I have here is a picture of some deli tongs right there at the bottom. They're super cheap. You might be able to get them donated from a supermarket, or if your office is like my office, you might have just a whole drawer full of them that has built up. And those are great because you can pick up the trash and not touch it. And if they break, they weren't very expensive and you could just toss them away. This clear bottle here is hand sanitizer. If you're out and about and you don't have access to a hand washing station, you might want to have some hand sanitizer there just to, get students' hands sanitized from if, touching anything. But the best of all is just regular soap. You want to make sure that students are washing their hands. Trash and litter, once it's out there, could carry disease. We haven't had any trouble with any of our hundreds of Adopt a Highway volunteers getting hurt or sick, but it is important to follow good safety protocols. And you also want to talk to students ahead of time about the rules and expectations are, that they need to stay within your site, that they need to listen, and that they need to understand that their safety is more important than picking up any trash. They can get really excited and driven about it, and you want to make sure, like, if it's in the road, if it's somewhere you have to, like, climb down a hill or something, you just need to leave that trash there and just deal with what you can pick up safely. And handling trash, the way that more people get injured in handling trash is a lot of times when it's in the bag and the students could be carrying the bag, it could be banging against their legs. So they want to make sure to just be aware of that and not put anything in the bag and not touch the bag with their bodies in any way. And then another important consideration is what to do with your trash at the end. This is usually not a problem, but you do want to plan ahead. A lot of times if you just have a group of students picking up a couple bags of trash, it's not a problem to throw it in the school dumpster. But if you're going to have a larger event cleanup or you're going to know you're going to clean up a lot of things, you want to make sure that you've made arrangements ahead of time with the custodians or with the city to come pick up the trash, because you want to make sure that there are funds for that and that you're not going to end up charged at the landfill with disposing of the trash. And again, that's usually not a problem. You just want to make sure that you plan ahead on that. So, games and activities to share. I think it's really important in environmental education that we're letting students come to their own conclusions. You don't want to just start out, here's what you think, litter is bad, you have to pick up litter. And it's easy to assume that that's what they think and that everybody knows we should pick it up and it's a foregone conclusion. But not everyone has really thought of it. A lot of people go their whole lives, they don't notice litter, they think that someone else is just going to pick it up, and they don't think about the systems that are or are not in place to pick up trash. And they might not have noticed the problem of litter, or maybe they haven't ever really thought about the impact of the litter on the environment. So it's a great idea for students to be able to do some research on litter around their litter cleanup. Look at what sort of systems are at your school. Who picks up the litter there? Who picks up the trash at your school? What happens if trash doesn't go into the trash bin or the recycling bin? If it's just on the side of the road, is there someone that's supposed to pick that up? A lot of times there really isn't, because the systems are all based around the idea that, you know, the garbage can is there and people are going to use the garbage can. So when we're also thinking about litter, you're thinking about what kind of impact does litter have on ecosystems. You can look at the plants, the animals. You can look at how litter degrades in the environment or doesn't degrade in the environment, and look at what are the consequences of having litter out there. Why does it matter if we leave it? Why does it not just, you know, break down and go away? We kind of have this idea that it's out of sight, out of mind. And then a lot of times the thing that'll get students more excited is the impact on people and thinking about their own community. Students want to be citizens. They care about the people around them. It's important to think about what are the impacts of litter. Is there disease? How do people feel about that litter in their environment? It's just a lot of things that they can consider. How long until it's gone? That goes along with the impact. A lot of times you would think the litter would just, you know, it blows away, it breaks down, it's going to turn into soil or compost somehow. But most of the litter pollution is plastic, and although it might break down into smaller pieces, it's not really gone. And looking about the different ways that things break down and how long does it take. Another thing that we might not think about is how litter moves through our environment. A lot of times you'll see litter on the city streets, or someone leaves it on a bus stop, or if you set it on top of a garbage can thinking someone's going to come and just take it away. About 80% of the litter that ends up in our oceans started on land and moved into our waterways through wind, through rain, through animals moving it. So there's a lot of movement of litter in our environment. So I've made a Google folder to share these lessons, and I've put a lot of the ones that I really like here. And I was going to talk about a couple of them that it's fun to use. So the first one is a Keep America Beautiful one, and on their website they have little videos of these lessons so that you can use them in your instruction. So a litter evaluation bag is just a bag full of litter, and it's clean litter, so the students can take it out, they can look at it, they can evaluate it in different ways. And in the Keep America Beautiful lesson, they give the students the litter evaluation bag, and they tell them to just sort them from most to least harmful. And they don't give them more direction than that. And that just starts the thought process on the litter and, you know, what is its effect in the environment. You could also have them sort litter in a bag. You can put it on a timeline is a thing that I like to do. How long will that litter take to decompose in the environment? How long before it is gone? You could have them sort it based on recyclable and not recyclable. You can have them sorted on how the different things, is it something that's natural and biodegrades, or is it plastic and it's going to photodegrade and never really go away and just break down into microplastics. So I've made some cards for that I've shared the file here with you. And these are these litter sorting cards, and I have some background here for you. And if you don't want to use litter, I also have these cards. You can print out the different kinds of litter and they could sort cards. And then I have a table here, and it has all the different items on the cards. and how long each of those things take to decompose. And then in the last column over here, I have them sorted by if it's something that's a natural item that's going to biodegrade or basically compost back into the soil, or if it's something metal that's going to corrode and then it's just going to rust back into the soil and not be a problem, or if it's something that's plastic like these food wrappers, nylon fabric, or cigarette filters that are made out of plastic. Those things do something called photodegrading, and that's where they just break down into smaller and smaller parts. You can see this picture here of all these tiny pieces of plastic that are now becoming part of the beach sand. So they break down, but they never really go away. And then they become microplastics that a lot of times end up in our soil and our water. So those cards are there for you. I have some instructions on a bioaccumulation activity if you want to examine microplastics more. This has students pretending to be consumers and predators, making their own little food web and trying to feed. They have beans and rice, and the rice is just regular like plankton and algae, and the beans represent microplastics. And the students put them in little cups, and then the bigger fish accumulate that food that the smaller fish has eaten, and then the top predators get them, and you're able to see how all those teeny tiny pieces of plastic just accumulate up the food web. And then at the top there's us eating fish that has that plastic in it. A litter journey is one that I've adapted from Incredible Journey, which is a Project Wet where students pretend to be a water drop and travel through the water cycle. But in a litter journey, they're pretending to be, a plastic bag, a talkie wrapper, whatever they want to pretend to be. And they have little dice at each station. And the stations are storm drain, lake, ocean, just different places throughout through the environment. And the litter would, if you're at the storm drain, you roll the dice, you could end up stuck in the storm drain for years, or you can be washed into the river. So the students are outside, they're active, they're moving through the environment just like a piece of litter would as it was moved by wind or animals or water. And it's just a fun, active thing. And I've shared the cards and the printouts that you could put on dice to make that. Crumple watersheds are fine, or they're fun. So you just need a piece of cardboard, a spray bottle, a blue marker, and a piece of paper. And when you crumble the paper and tape it onto the cardboard, and then draw the waterways on it, and you're able to look at how the streams all come together and how litter might travel from the land and then move into smaller creeks, into larger rivers, all the way up to the ocean. So that's a nice, inexpensive way to help them understand watersheds and how litter acts in the watersheds. I have a sustainability PowerPoint that I've shared. I also have a trash dash game. That's another game. I'm real big into dice, so it's got dice and activity cards. And what we do for that is divide them into relay teams, spread out some trash, give them grabbers, and they each come up and they roll the dice. And if on the dice the trash is not thrown into a garbage can or isn't cleaned up by a volunteer group, then they have to go run and pick up the trash. And I have them doing things like jumping jacks and sit-ups and squats. And then we talk about how it's easier if something goes into a garbage can versus if someone has to go and take the extra effort to clean it up. I have a personal trash audit linked here. It's fun for students to look at what they're using and thinking about the trash that they're creating throughout the day. This is part of a larger National Geographic lesson plan, and they're just looking at, was this a single-use item? What happened to it after I was done with it? Let's see. Next, what to do after your cleanup. So there are lots of ways. Once you have picked up all that litter, you have a great treasure trove of data. There are things you can count them, you can quantify them. Again, like the litter sorting cards, how long does it take for them, each of these things you found, to biodegrade? How long would they stay in the environment? What did we find the most of? What sort of item? Mapping is a great thing to do. They could take a map of the neighborhood or the schoolyard and maybe look at areas like, where is all the littering concentrated? How might we make up a solution for this? Is there an area we need more trash cans? Is there an area that we need education about, taking your trash over to the trash can? And they could be able to, make maps and look at that and try to come up with solutions based on the data that they've collected. Another interesting thing is to connect that trash back to our own actions and consumption. You can see here this photo of the top 10 items that they find in beach cleanups every year. You can see food wrappers, beverage bottles, plastic bags, cans, glass bottles, straws, cutlery. A lot of this stuff are things that we use every day, and so we can have a lot of control over what happens with those. There's lots of solutions based on not using single-use items, or making sure single-use items can biodegrade, or that people are disposing of them properly. So all this is about taking that data, moving it into a place or a way like tables or maps that students can analyze, and then thinking about those. What kinds of solutions can we come up with to the littering problem that we're seeing in our own community? I have here top 10 trash items. This is a set of cards. It has single-use items, and each of them have a corresponding substitution. So instead of plastic trash bags, you could bring a reusable trash bag. Instead of plastic water bottles, a reusable water bottle. So just thinking about things that we can do in our own daily life to help cut down the trash that we make. Creating litter campaigns is fun. Students can influence their peers, help share the education and the information that they've found in these investigations, and try to help find solutions, or stop their peers from littering. We always want to kind of focus, when we're thinking about littering, not on how are we going to have 1 million more trash pickups, but how can we stop people from littering and make them think about the trash they're creating and how it's a problem to get rid of it, and how we can make solutions to stop littering. Talking to decision makers, they could write the nutrition department for your school district, talk to the lunch staff, talk to the custodians about different ways to deal with it, or write letters to the mayor, the commission, any sort of legislation that they think might be helpful in helping to curb littering. And then another fun activity is to have a waste-free lunch day or a waste-free snack. If you can come in and say, what items can we use? Could we all reuse reusable bags for a day, or reusable containers, or making something like that for them to bring their lunches in every day, handing out something like cheaper multiple use kind of Tupperware thing that you could hand out, that they could bring their lunches in and really feel like they're making a difference. Citizen science is another great thing that they can do. Students can, after they've collected their own data on the school or community level, they could see how scientists worldwide and at different universities collect data, and they could start getting involved in those projects. This video explains it better than me, so I'm going to play it for you in a second. One kind of caveat, it says marine debris tracker, and so sometimes people think, oh, well, I don't live at the beach, so this isn't something for me to use. But a lot of the marine debris started on land and travels down the waterways. So this is a tool that you can use no matter how far away you are from water. And it's really neat. You can see a local scientist, Jenna Jambeck, who works on this project, is a researcher at the University of Georgia. She works a lot with the National Geographic, so she has this whole career and body of research that's been really important internationally in looking at the pollution problem. So I'm going to play this video about the debris tracker.
I fell in love with the study of solid waste because it so closely involves people. Every day we decide what to buy, what to consume, and then we have to choose if we're going to recycle something, compost something, or put it in the trash. Unfortunately, some of our items still end up in the environment. Every minute, the equivalent of a dump truck worth of plastic enters our oceans.
As researchers, we study plastic pollution all around the world, and this is a global problem. But I think there's this tendency to think of it as something that's far away and far removed from us. But there's nowhere on the planet that's not touched by the water cycle. So plastic pollution can start right in our own backyards. But so can the solutions. Scientists need data on what's ending up in the environment so that we can use that data to inform upstream solutions. But they can't collect this data without your help.
The first iteration of Marine Debris Tracker was actually on a personal digital assistant. My students went out and collected litter items with exact GPS coordinates, and we could look at the distribution and change of litter on a coastline over time. When smartphones came out, it became possible to collect this type of data on a wider scale, and so we thought there should be an app for that.
Debris Tracker is an open data citizen science movement. We're committed to sharing our data because we believe this problem will be solved more quickly when we work together. When you use the app, the geospatial litter data you collect is uploaded to our publicly accessible database. Scientists, policymakers, educators, or anyone around the world can download and analyze your data to inform their solutions. There's power in numbers, which is why we rely on a community of people just like you to collect this data. The app is free and easy to use, so anyone can become a citizen scientist.
Wherever you are in the world, every piece of data that you collect is a piece of the puzzle illustrating the plastic pollution problem. So please, join our open data citizen science movement by collecting litter in your community today. And help us answer these 3 questions. What is it? How did it get there? And together, what can we do about it?
So that's free and really easy to use. You can see this picture over here of us using it at the Environmental Education Alliance conference last year. We had our volunteers all went out in little teams and they brought back their bags of trash, and we had someone there that was helping them to record it. So we weren't taking each piece of trash right where it was on the beach, but it was getting recorded at that beach location where it was found. And so we did a cleanup and were able to contribute to this larger body of research, which was exciting. So here are some other recommended curricula and resources that I like. So first off, the NOAA website is a great portal for different litter and trash and marine debris activities and curricula. They have this really great curated group of resources from just activities where you have like word searches and coloring pages and Mad Libs that they can do, to larger lesson plans, a lot more text and background information on different litter analysis that your students can learn about and do. They also, this Washed Ashore integrates art really heavily. So they're coming at it from all different angles. And it's just a great place to go where, you know, they have a lot of great resources for you already searched out and put together. And then this series, this Trash Talk series, is also NOAA, and it's an Emmy-winning video series. They're little short. It's like a series of them, so you don't have to watch a really long video. they're broken down into topics, and you could watch, one a week, or, whenever you have a little bit of time, or if you're just interested in focusing on a different subject that you wanted more background on, you can look at that. And Waste in Place is the curriculum from Keep America Beautiful. And on the Keep America Beautiful website, they have little videos with different lessons, and some of that curriculum is free to download and use. That's where the litter evaluation bag comes from, and that's the one lesson in there that I really like to use. Project Wild, Learning Tree, and Wet all have some lessons each in them that touch on litter that are great to use. And National Geographic has been focusing a lot on plastic pollution. They did kind of dedicated a year to that and came up with a lot of great lessons, curriculums. A lot of it focuses on, the kids, and it has great background for them to do research on litter. It has that personal litter audit for the students, and then it helps them focus on organizing themselves to put together some sort of project or solution. So I really like the National Geographic lessons on litter. And doesn't matter what you do, you could speak with the students after they do their cleanup. You can go in any number of directions or tailor it to whatever you're looking at, students' impact on the environment, if you're learning about how do things decompose or chemical change, if you're looking at community helpers. There's just all different ways that the standards touch on different parts of litter. And unfortunately, litter is always there for us to be able to study. But it's something that I hope that we can educate our students about, and will become less of a problem in the future as we understand the impact that it has on our planet. And if you have any questions, this is my email. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to share more resources with you. Or if you have great ideas, I'd love to hear them too. But thank you very much.